All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to talk a little bit about how to write great blog post headlines. And this is a very, very important and often neglected topic. I see so many writers write amazing articles, but their headline sucks. They write stuff like, how to do marketing. They write stuff like how to sell. They write things like tips for relationships. Okay? These are headlines, right? You can write a blog post on how to do marketing, how to sell, tips for relationships, but these are terrible titles. These are terrible titles. And I'm going to tell you guys why. These are terrible titles because they're generic. They don't really convey any specific particular message to anybody who reads the title. And the thing is that for every, there's a statistic, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get this wrong, but for every 10 people that see any of your content, 6 of those people will just read your title, and that's it. And only the other 4 will actually skim your articles. So imagine if your articles is floating up in social media, for every 10 people, 6 of them will just look at the title, and the rest will actually read it. It's you want to do everything you can to make sure that they click your article. They click that link on social media, right? You want to do a stellar job in creating a blog post headline that just gets people's attention like crazy. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a few tips that you can use to immediately become a better blog post title writer. Tip number 1. Read blog posts on BuzzFeed and Upworthy. These are 2 amazing sites, and they do a tremendous job, a really, really good job with their blog headlines. And they get a ton of traffic from social just because of their headlines are just so amazing. And I'm 100% sure you guys have all seen stuff like, I'm not going to write it, it's too long, but this girl... this girl used a hot iron for the last time in her life. Find out what happened next. That's some stupid one I just made up, but stuff like that, right? And people click it. People really click it. They're so good with their thumbnail images and their titles. The articles sometimes they suck, but their titles are amazing. Okay? So these are 2 publications I would recommend that you guys start reading the titles and the posts in these publications. It'll give you a great idea on how to create titles that are actually going to be interesting and will actually get people to click. Okay, tip number 2. Make it actionable. So what do I mean by actionable? People should read your title, and there should be something in that title that either educates them, entertains them, informs them, or gets them to take some sort of action. I'm not saying every blog post that you write will have to be something actionable, right? News articles often aren't actionable. There's nothing you're supposed to do. It's just news, right? Or entertainment stuff. But in general, if you write how-to guides, definitive guides, the complete guide, the 2000 updated guide, these kind of things, when you put those titles in your words in your title, it makes it seem very relevant and it makes it seem very, very actionable. So it's really important that you focus on writing titles that inherently, within the headline, there's some sort of cue that calls them to take action. How to do this, how to do that, What are, 3 tips for doing this, 4 tips for doing that, 7 tips for doing this. There's all these types of ways that you can basically, get people to read something simply because it teaches something. It teaches them how to do something. And don't make it generic. I showed you these other ones in the beginning, like how to sell. That's too generic. That is too generic. A better title might be how to sell high-ticket items by building relationships with people on LinkedIn. 7 ways that I sold more than $105,000 in sales this year using Facebook Messenger. Both articles, all these articles are teaching you how to sell, but there's a significant difference between these last examples I gave you and the first example I gave you, which was just how to sell. What's the example? Well, what's the difference? The second 2, I was in depth, I was specific, right? It's not generic. You have to be specific with your titles, just like you have to be specific with your advice that you give within the articles. Don't give generic advice, okay? And don't write generic blog headlines. It's just poor, and you're gonna get turned down quite a bit if you keep doing that from editors and from publications. So the next tip. Use odd numbers. Odd numbers tend to do better than even numbers when it comes to listicles. So if you're going to say something like, blank ways to skin a cat, right? You want to ideally use an odd number. 3 ways to skin a cat, 7 ways to skin a cat, 11 ways to skin a cat. And again, that's a terrible example because that's just a very generic thing. But I would say something like 7 ways to skin a cat using a shovel. It's a very funny example, but you have to be specific with your titles, and you wanna, if you're gonna do listicles and stuff like that, or different ways to do something, or different hacks or different tips, try to use odd numbers. Research has shown that odd numbers for some reason tend to do better than even numbers, as far as I'm aware. Now, I've heard some stuff like there's some other studies that have kind of shown opposites, and this kind of unclear. But for the most part, I still do believe that having odd numbers as headlines typically is a better idea. And use the number 7, by the way. 7 is a really good number for things. 7 tips to do whatever. Okay. I'm gonna erase this and add some more stuff. Keyword research. That should have been really tip number 1. You really shouldn't write anything until you've done keyword research to figure out if people are actually searching for this topic and that keyword. And the best way to do keyword research, there's many ways to do it. The way I do it is that I'm not the best at keyword research. I don't have access to certain softwares and things like that to do really solid in-depth keywords. So I just go to Fiverr.com, which is a freelancing website, and there are so many people basically will do in-depth analysis of keywords and competition in Google and YouTube videos and all this kind of stuff. And in any niche, any particular topic that you give them, and we'll give you this file with all these keywords that are low competition, easy to rank for in Google and stuff like that. So do that, hire the guy on Fiverr and get it done by him. And if you know how to do keyword research yourself and you're absolutely amazing, stellar at it, do it yourself. But start with keywords that are low competition, but generally have higher traffic. Okay, it doesn't always have to be high traffic, because you can go for a whole bunch of low competition keywords with medium or low traffic, and you kind of can rank for those. But in general, you want to go for stuff that's low competition and fairly high in traffic, and create in-depth content around those kind of keywords. Like when I say in-depth, 3,000 words, 5,000 word blog posts, 10,000 word guides will rank so much better than 5,000, 500 word, 1,000 word articles. Those things usually don't do well, so be in depth. So that was kind of a tangential. Alright, so after you've done some keyword research, you've found some good keywords to target, the next thing you should do is use a website called Buzzsumo. Buzzsumo will show you some of the most viral content. If you just put in some keywords, it'll show you articles that have gone viral, that have done really well on social media and other places for that kind of keyword or that topic. So if something already did well, guess what? You can copy it. It'll probably do well for you as well. So if you see a particular article title or headline that has gotten 200,000 shares on social media, hey man, just copy it. Just copy it. Not word for word necessarily maybe, but something similar to that will probably do well for you as well. So go to buzzsumo.com and put in your keyword and look to see the articles that are coming up as popular in that niche, in that domain, and try to create something similar to those articles and also try to create a similar headline as those ones. Let me erase some of these. If you're late to class, you're not going to know what I talked about earlier. All right. Tea break. Okay. Next tip to writing great blog headlines. Google it. Google the keyword or the topic and see the top ranking articles. See what's already performing well in Google. Chances are, if it's ranking in the top of the search engine for certain keywords, those article titles must have done well. That content piece must have been written well. So if you do that and you create something that's similar to that, chances are you too will also be able to create an article with a great headline if you just use those examples. With that topic, with that tip, I'm also going to say that when you start typing in the topic or the keyword, you will see that Google will give you suggestions in the search engine, right? It'll it'll complete the sentence for you. Well, guess what? Those are the things that people are searching for. That's why Google is suggesting those as suggested searches. So use those as examples to not only come up with really good keywords that actually have demand, but use that also for blog headlines. And also at the very bottom of the search result, once you search something, you will see there is a related searches section. Use those as well. Related searches are going to be huge in trying to, for you to figure out what people are actually searching for. And again, based around those search things, you can obviously Google that as well. You can put those keywords in Buzzsumo as well. You can find other titles and other blog posts and other things that have done well on social media. Look at their headlines, and you too can come up with really good headlines. Next tip. Keep it relevant, okay? Keep it relevant. Don't try to go for clickbaits. Meaning, if you write an article on, how to rank YouTube videos in 3 seconds, and you actually don't know how to do that, and your article has no actionable advice on it, you just use that as a title to get people to click, you're just wasting people's time and you're creating bad user experience. Google hates that. Google has this thing called bounce rate, and if they click your title, they read the article, they stay a couple seconds on it, they bounce off because it's not helping them. Well, guess what? You haven't done a good job with your content, and Google will eventually start lowering you down, your article down in search engines. So you may want to make sure that you don't want to, mislead them with your title.
Your title should be interesting, and it should be something that makes people want to click, right? But your content needs to match it too. Your content has to actually match whatever your title is saying. So if your title is bad and it just has nothing to do with your content, people are not going to be happy once they find out that your article has nothing to do with it. And we've all had that experience with YouTube videos. You click a video because the thumbnail looks so interesting and the title looks amazing, but the YouTube video is just stupid, something completely random, and you're just let down. You just feel like 30 seconds of your life is just wasted for no reason. Don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. Just keep it relevant. Be honest and accurate with like your title and what your content is, and you should do well. The next tip that I'm going to give you guys is, I'm trying to think of what to call this. I'm not sure what you would call this type of strategy, but have you guys ever seen articles like 3 ways to save at least $5 on your water bill every day? Okay? 3 ways to save $5 on your water bill daily. Something like that. And you will see that they will put in parentheses, number 3 will blow your mind. That's a great strategy because people are now curious, well, I wonder what number 3 must be. So when you write something and you have a tip that's absolutely out of the world, just like something is crazy hack, like nobody would ever guess it, it's counterintuitive, put that in parentheses. Number 4 will blow your mind. Number 4 will make you rethink. Number 4 will make you do this or that. Whatever you gotta do to make it, just make one of the points stand out way more than the rest of them. And then you can put that in the parentheses in your blog title, and guess what? Tons of people are gonna click it just because they wanna know what is this number 4 that you're talking about, that you're saying is so freaking good. Okay? So generate curiosity. That's really what this is to make people curious. Like, what is the title, what is this blog post really about? Okay? It has to appeal to their curiosity. If it doesn't make them curious, if it doesn't help them learn something, again, if you're generic, it's not going to make them curious. But if you make it basically somehow creative, curious, generate curiosity, and by using like strategies like this one, I promise you, you will get a lot more clicks on your article headlines from social media, from Google searches and stuff like that, and it will work. Final tip, oops. One of the most underutilized things in marketing, in writing, is that nobody ever asks other successful writers. Nobody wants to talk to anybody. People just want to think that they know how to play the game. They watch some videos like this. They don't interact with other people that are already successful at blogging, at writing, they're columnists in major publications. You have to ask them. You have to get them to mentor you. And if you do that, all this stuff will be so much easier because they've already navigated these paths that you're looking to navigate. So hiring a mentor, hiring an expert, I'm not saying you couldn't figure these things out by yourself by reading and Googling and stuff like that. You could. But why would you do that if this person already did exactly what you're trying to do and they know the shortcuts and they can just tell you? So it's so important to ask people that have already are writing in different places. They're already successful at content marketing. They're already successful at creating amazing blog headlines or writing for major publications or blogging on their own website. They get a ton of traffic and search engine traffic and stuff. Ask these people, reach out to them and say, hey, my name is John Smith and I love writing and I write for this and I write on this topic. I love reading your stuff. I noticed that you write about this and this. I've read some of your pieces, totally amazing. As an aspiring writer, can I ask you to help me kind of craft my next blog post, which I want to write for this publication X. In return, I would be more than happy to do anything for you that would help you in your journey as well as a writer. Best, Rafi, John Smith, whatever. So you have to ask people. If you don't get help, you can only read so much. You can only watch so many of these videos. You're just not gonna know in which direction to navigate. There is so much content out there. There's so much things to learn. If someone doesn't tell you, hey, you need to learn that, and that's all you need to know, you're gonna spend your entire life learning. Like some of these professional students you see, they're like 50 years old and they're still in school, and you wonder like what's wrong with them, like why can't they go get a job, and they're still learning. Like, hey, that's exactly what happens, okay? When you don't ask experts on what you need to study, what classes you need to take, what degrees do you need to get this job. And that applies also to writing. I've seen plenty of people pitching constantly, 10 years, they could not get into one publication. You never asked. You tried so many different things, and the reality is that the world is just, our time here on earth is way too small for us to try Benjamin Franklin's 10,000 ways to make a light bulb type of model. You just can't do that. You need Benjamin Franklin to tell you that one way that it works. And I'm going to leave you guys with that. Thank you guys so much.